On November 9th, the second annual Man Up South Jersey Men's Spirituality Conference will be held at Paul VI Conference Center in Haddon Township. This year's theme is Anchored in Christ, a reminder that as Catholic men, we are blessed to have Jesus in our lives, keeping us stable and secure, even in the midst of the storm around us. If you are traveling these rough waters, then register today at manupsouthjersey.com.
From the vault, high atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to Talking Catholic. We are the official podcast of South Jersey. I'm Pete Sanchez, and with me as always is Mike Walsh. Mike, how are you today?
I'm good. A little sleepy. My son had a party last night that went until like 9 o'clock. We were hosting it and it went to like 9 o'clock, and then there was all the cleanup afterwards, and I woke up this morning. I'm very tired. Feeling very lethargic this morning, which will come across, I think, in the intro. I'm very lethargic right now.
Well, how many kids were
20 some odd kids and about 10 parents probably. So it was a full house.
Wow.
It was a pool party. It was a lot of fun. It was good times.
I remember those days. I remember being that young and having friends over and stay late. Did they do like a sleepover? No sleepover, but no, it was a great time though. But he slept in this morning. He had a hard time waking up, which is good, as he should. Yeah. Oh, you party hard.
That's right.
I know that. But speaking of party, Mike, we got some cool things coming up along the bat. We just finished. This episode will be coming off after the Feast of the Assumption.
Yes.
Which so you'll find out more about that in the next episode. That it's exciting. We'll actually be recording the next one in down the shore again. In another part.
That's right.
You can look for that next week, folks. Keep your dials tuned to Talking Catholic, even though we're a podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Old timey. But this Sunday, our friends, CFR sisters, excuse me, in Atlantic City, they're going to have once again the Heart to Heart Youth Holy Hour and Social at St. Michael Church, 10 North Mississippi Avenue. This happens every third Sunday of the month. Begins 4 p.m. in Quarumba Hall, which is behind the church, with pizza and fellowship, followed by Eucharistic adoration with music and meditation, and finishing with benediction at 5:30. And if you know anything about the CFR sisters with the meditation and music, they do a beautiful job. I was there a few weeks ago with Light the Fire, and that was incredible. They really are. They just know how to. They just really know how to set the stage to revere the Lord. So again, come on out again this Sunday, November 18th, St. Michael Church in Atlantic City for all youth. It's a holy hour and social for all high school youth groups and teenagers, starting at 4 p.m. For more information, call Sister Ann Cattery at 609-343-1545. And that same day, if you're parents, if your kids are in Atlantic City Youth Holy Hour, and you're like, what do? I have an afternoon free. Go to Haddon Heights, New Jersey for St. Rosalima Church, 300 East Kings Highway for a closer walk with God with our friend who's been on the podcast, Father Joe Byerly.
That's right.
And this is going to be at 2 p.m. Basically, he's going to give a talk on the power of humility and the theology of work, which both sound very interesting. Sure. Then there'll be time for silent time to meditate before the Eucharist. And just come, sit, and relax. There'll be a booklet given to you with scripture quotes and reflections on just to bring you peace on Sunday. And this is at 2 p.m. again. It's held at St. Rosalima Church, 300 East Kings Highway, Haddon Heights, New Jersey, starting at 2 p.m. And it's free. It's a free event. So get a closer walk with God and be infused with the Holy Spirit.
And, since we're sort of in the prayer mode right now, our past and future guest, Donna Ottaviano Britt, her her office, the Office of Leadership and Missionary Discipleship, is holding a series of holy hours. They've had 2 earlier this month, and there's 2 more for the remainder of August and 1 for September. So August 21st is a holy hour in fellowship at 6:30 p.m. at Mantua at the Church of the Incarnation. And then on August 28th, there's a holy hour in fellowship at 6:30 p.m. in Collingswood at St. Teresa of Calcutta Parish. And September 11th, there's a holy hour in fellowship at 6:30 p.m. in Ocean City at St. Damien Parish. And, something that we've been sort of promoting lately, along with all the other spiritual activities we have in the diocese. But this is a nice one because it harkens back to that great convocation that we had back in April, and it's built out of that in the hopes of inviting people who haven't been to Mass back to an adoration, which is it's very quiet, it's very peaceful. It's I find the adorations are nice because it's a different way of connecting with Christ by sort of like sitting there silently and prayerfully and just sort of letting God sort of envelop you. The holy hours are always the thing that I find most sort of, I wouldn't rank it. I'm not going to say it's the most spiritually rewarding thing, but maybe it's because I don't get a chance to do it that often, but when I do, I find it particularly powerful. So if you haven't been to a holy hour adoration in a while, or you know someone who hasn't been to one in a while, invite them down. And if you want to wait till the September 11th one, make it part of a trip to the shore. Go to the beach and boardwalk in Ocean City, and then go to a holy hour and adoration at the end in the evening.
I think that sounds wonderful, Mike.
Yeah.
I might have to put that on my calendar, September 11th.
Sure, that's a great idea. Yeah. And what else we got coming up?
Well, we got coming up to you were talking about adoration and being enveloped in the Spirit. Mm-hmm. I feel like retreat days can do the same thing. You were talking last week about finding a retreat, and I
haven't found it yet, but still hoping.
You haven't what?
Still haven't found a retreat yet, but I'm still hoping.
Okay. Well, if our listeners know of any good ones, please let us know. Mm-hmm. But this one is this is for women at St. Mary by the Sea Retreat House. This will take place on September 4th, September 17th, and September 18th. And this is neat. The topics are prayer in the golden years, God of your heart, and haiku, prayer, and you. That sounds really interesting. As someone who's trying to get more into poetry, I've been listening. Actually, Mike, there's a cool podcast called The Daily Poem, and they have some like Wendell Berry just had one on vacation, and he talked a lot about it. It's very interesting about how the tendency he was writing years ago, but the tendency for us to take photos of events when we're on vacation, but really we're trying to save the moment, but we're not really experiencing the moment, because if we put our phones down, we're engaged in the photo and not engaged in the experience. Mm-hmm. We're engaged in taking the photo. So I think
there's a lot of truth to that. I oftentimes, being a photographer, I'm always taking pictures of something. And
great photos, by the way. Great pictures.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you to say. But I am trying to put it down more often. Like, I have not picked up my big camera, the one I take for work and stuff like that. I have not picked that up since the beginning of June, I think. Now, of course, I have my cell phone with me, and I'm always snapping pictures with that. But even then, I'm trying to I'll take one photograph, and then I just want to be invested in what I'm doing, rather than sort of capturing picture after picture after picture, just so I can say that, I was there when this thing happened, I was there when this thing happened.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I don't now where I might diverge from that point is that I do think that there's a benefit of taking photographs. I just think you have to make sure that it's not the only reason you're doing something, so that you can show you were there or make other people feel bad because they're not there.
Exactly. Well, that's FOMO, fear of missing out. Mm-hmm. And I think, Instagram, Instagram should come with a semicolon. I think, no, colon. The semicolon is with it's the dot and then the comma underneath it. I'm thinking Instagram should be Instagram : FOMO. Like it seems like that's.
I don't agree with that though, because when I go on, I love Instagram, but I think of it as I like to see other people having a good time. I never feel like I'm missing out. I'm always like, oh, hey, thanks for putting that up there so I can share a moment of it with you. Just having been there in a moment, like, oh, that's nice.
No, I mean, I feel that way too, but there are sometimes my friends and I will talk about how it can be, you have to be careful. It can be a spiral. So it's in your head too.
Yeah, but I think that has less to do with Instagram and more to do with ourselves. I think we tend to do that's something we like. Back in the day, I could see that would have been a problem for me, but now that I'm more mature and seasoned, and I care less about what other people think, that stuff doesn't bother me anymore. I never feel like I'm missing out. It's like I'm always like, thank you for allowing me into a part of your life so I can see what you're up to, and it makes you feel closer to the person. And particularly, I don't follow that many people on social media, so maybe altogether it's maybe 200 people individually who are active users. And in my daily life, I would never be able to keep up with all those people. But now, I can have a moment with them online where I'm like, hey, listen, I am so happy that your child has done whatever, or you got that promotion, or you went out to drinks with friends. I love seeing people enjoying themselves. I love that part about social media. And I can't make it to every social event, so I'm glad that they give me a glimpse of it. And I think if you look at it from that perspective, it's less about fear of missing out and more about feeling part of a community.
I like that. That is a mature response. I think there's, of course, I love seeing baby pictures, friends or family with their little ones. But there are moments where it's with, somebody's down in the Dominican Republic on the island. I'm like, man, that sounds awesome. That looks awesome.
Well, yeah, and I think we should be proud. I think we should be pleased for them.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you.
Well, Mike, I will tell you that I'm excited. I made a trip in the fall. I'm going to the West Coast.
Good.
The Pacific Northwest. So, and Oregon and Canada. So I will be stepping away from here for a few days, and there might be a few Instagram photos.
That's good. There should be. You should. That's exactly what trips like that are for. And then you can't bring everyone you know with you, so you put up a couple of photos so they can get a glimpse of it.
Nor would I want to bring everyone with me. No, I mean, like.
Well, that I understand. I love the idea of leaving everyone behind me.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be. I'm going to view it as kind of a spiritual retreat myself, visiting family out there. So I'm excited about that, and there is something too about planning a trip and. Getting excited for it. So I think I might use Instagram for that, and hopefully nobody else, because of my photos, will get FOMO. Hopefully they take your tactic.
Yes.
So, but this Women's Retreat Days at St. Mary by the Sea Retreat House, all days in September, the 4th, 17th, and 18th. Call 609-884-8708 for a registration form, or even easier, go to www.stmarybythesea.org. That is St. Mary in the website, the web link. And then also in September, we got coming up a lot of events once again in Belmar at Annunciation Church. There is the Milestone for Life Mass. And this year, I think this is the first time it used to only be for centenarians, right, Mike?
Yes.
And now it's nonagenarians, those who are celebrating 90 years and beyond of life. Come on out to this. And we're going to celebrate life to the fullest here. There'll be a light reception and fellowship. The Mass starts at 3 p.m. at Annunciation Church, which is St. Joachim Parish, 601 West Browning Road, Belmar, New Jersey. And to attend, RSVP to Anna Marie Perillo at 856-583-6121. And Mike, we have more trips to the border, don't we?
Yeah, in October and November, we have the Share the Journey to the Mexico-Texas border, and visiting with Sister Norma Pimentel and her respite center serving immigrants crossing the border. It's a great opportunity to go down and get real-world perspective on what's going on at the border. It's something we've been promoting a lot in the last couple of weeks, and it's really an education opportunity. In addition to a service project, you do get to work with immigrants, but it's really an opportunity to learn for yourself what's going down. So if you're interested in going down, I encourage you to reach out to our colleague, Mary McCusker, and you can learn more at CatholicCharitiesCamden.org/STJ-pilgrimages, or just go on CatholicCharitiesCamden.org, or for all, just Google it. But check it out, and I know there are openings in October and there are openings in November for those pilgrimages, so I hope people will go down. And with that in mind, the Catholic Charities Share the Journey Justice for All Gala is taking place on October 3rd in Atlantic City. It's from 5:30 p.m. to about 9 o'clock, and they'll be honoring Cardinal Luis Tagle, the Archbishop of Manila, and President of Caritas Internationalis, as well as 5 local Disciples of Mercy, which have been selected by a committee, and now they're going to be reviewed by a few people, and we're going to check in with their pastors, but very much looking forward to releasing those names in the next week or so people can see who else is being honored in addition to Cardinal Luis Tagle. But it should be a great event. It's always a lot of fun. This year, our host is going to be the CBS News Sunday evening anchor, Elaine Quijones. She's a delight, but you can check her out on Sunday evenings and learn more about her and see who will be hosting our event for us. But it's a great night, and there are, for anyone who wants to spend the night, if you go to CatholicCharitiesCamden.org/JFA 2019, you'll learn more about the event, be able to buy tickets, and if you want, you can get discounted rooms for the evening as well for anyone who wants to stay overnight in Atlantic City, which is always lovely. But anyway, so that's coming up too. That's October 3rd, 2019. That's a Thursday night.
Sometimes those shoulder seasons. I think is October a shoulder month.
The shore communities always try to extend that shoulder as much as they can to for the benefit of the businesses down at the shore. But sure, early October, particularly in Atlantic City, is always nice. Just the beginning of crisp weather.
I agree.
Yeah, it's always good times.
I know. I hear the whispers of pumpkin spice.
I just saw today a news article said that pumpkin spice will be released even earlier this year. So maybe at the beginning of September you'll be able to find your pumpkin spiced lattes and other pumpkin spiced flavor foods.
Candles, Yankee candles. See, I feel like there's going to be pumpkin spice like mid-July. It just seems to be creeping up more. Maybe not, but I guess it just...
It's funny you should say that. I was at a birthday party on Sunday evening, and the birthday cake was a spice cake. To which I turned to the hostess, and it was a delicious cake. I said, "What made you do spice cake in August?" I said, "My brain can't handle it. I'm tasting spices, and that I usually only attribute to the wintertime, Thanksgiving, Christmas, stuff like that." She goes, I asked the kids what they wanted, and they said they wanted a spice cake. I'm like, well, I'm not arguing with you. It's delicious, but it is not what my brain was expecting. So
that's funny.
But yeah, so that was lovely. So yes, I'm a fall guy. Fall's my favorite season. So I could definitely go for the smell of spices coming soon and the taste.
Yeah, I'm getting ready for that too. I have a few friends who are big into the Halloween season, so I'm sure they'll talk me into going down to Six Flags has a Fright Fest every year that they do, which is fun, and it is a nice time of year.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That'll be October 8th.
Which thing?
The Justice for All.
October 3rd.
October 3rd. Okay, earlier. Wonderful.
Yeah. So we pre-recorded today's interview down in my neck of the woods, down in Elmer, New Jersey, where I've grown up, and we talk about that a little bit on the podcast. But it's a great discussion about Catholic Scouting. Catholic Scouting is part of scouting in general, both Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and now Boy Scouts with Girl Scouts in the Boy Scouts.
You think you just confused everybody.
Well, I mean, it's true. Boy Scouts is now scouting, and it's opened itself up to traditional Boy Scouting for girls. So there are now Girl Scouts in the Boy Scouts. But then there's also the historical Girl Scouts as well. And both of them have elements that fall under Catholic Scouting. So there's a committee in South Jersey that works with Scouts to bring the Catholic faith into Scouting. So we had a great conversation with a bunch of people that you'll hear shortly, but it was fun for us, and it took place right before a Mass that was being held at Roosevelt campsite in Elmer in this great field chapel that they built there. So it's really nice, and it was a great conversation, so we hope everybody enjoys it. And it was just a nice chat about something that my son has really been taking part in a lot this summer and has had a blast with. So, and you volunteered to become a scout leader, so nice job. By the end of the interview, they had already started trying to convince you.
Yeah, well, it's to be determined. I'm working through a few things now, but no, I mean,
I'm not holding my breath, Pete.
No, but I thought it was really, as a scout myself, it brought me back to the, thinking of the Pinewood Derby. I'm thinking about camping, thinking about camp songs. That was something I wish we got more into. That'll be the next time. We need to talk more about what favorite camp songs there are. Because I don't know. Or even like snacks. What s'mores is a go-to, granola. So
all of them. Just give me all the snacks. I don't know.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sounds good. Well,
all right.
Enjoy, everybody. So we're here in the Joe Brennan. We're here in the Andy Wager Chapel, exactly.
That is correct.
And who was Andy Wager?
Andy Wager was a very influential scouter in many people's lives. Andy really gave of himself for the Catholic Scouting movement. Andy was from upstate New York, Poughkeepsie, but he ventured down here after he got married, and just his influence was just tremendous on so many people. He just willed people to live Catholic Scouting. So he was Catholic Scouting, and is, because Andy still is with us, and he'll never be not with us.
That's true. Yeah, really, it was happy because I knew Andy I guess the first couple of years I was working for the Diocese, and he was a great guy, committed to scouting, as you said, a true gentleman, and it's nice to be here. We're here. This is during the summer Mass schedule, Wednesday evening, right? It's going to start in a bit tonight.
6:30 the Mass starts at Camp Roosevelt every Wednesday, and as we begin Mass, before Mass starts, I bring up the 10 minutes and explain to the Scouts that a Scout is reverent and they want to think about their vocations for the priesthood or sisterhood now that the Scouts are girls are welcomed as well.
For the benefit of the podcast users at home, let's go around the table and introduce everybody. We introduced Joe, but let's go. We now have this mysterious redheaded voice coming across. So, Rusty, give us your name and where you're from.
Rusty Brady from the Holy Cross Parish, Boy Scout Troop 98, organizer of the Field Chapel here at Camp Roosevelt.
And on this end of the table?
I'm Jenny Ferrara. I'm the female leader from Troop 1098. We're from Parish of the Holy Cross.
One more.
I'm Sam Ferrara. I'm a scout for Troop 1098.
My name is Greg Coogan, and I am a member of the Catholic Committee on Scouting and serve as the director of Youth and Young Adult Ministry for the Diocese of Camden, of which Scouting is the largest and oldest youth ministry in the diocese. Started 80 years ago by men and boys here in South Jersey, and is the largest youth ministry with over 1,000 scouts, boys and girls, both in Boy Scouts of America and Girl Scouts of America, in 13 chartered Boy Scout troops, and there are Catholics in every scouting troop and pack in and around the Diocese of Camden.
So I guess, one question I would have, my son has been started in Boy Scouting for 4 or 5 years, went through the whole program. Just got his Hour of Light in April at his blue and gold ceremony, and he's now a scout in Troop 292 in Clayton. Very excited about that. He's truly enjoying his time as a scout. So one of the questions I have as a scout father is, what makes scouting Catholic scouting? Greg or Joe?
Yes, so we can answer this together, Joe. Catholic Scouting, there is religious awards that are part of the catechetical component, which cover the 8 components of youth ministry. In fact, when the church was serving young people since the very beginning, but in the United States of America and in Europe, and so when the immigrants came over, they brought the scouting movement over. When scouting began here in the United States, so did Catholics involved in scouting, and so it was a real effort from the church's perspective to be close to young people and really. The scouting movement brings forth the best and teaches young people's critical skills, moral development, leadership development, and the church's presence there is crucial. The religious awards that both are in Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts are some of the gold standard of catechetical formation and learning about the Lord Jesus Christ, the church, and the sacraments, and how to live the gospel. And so the awards that, from the light of Christ to duty to God to even the Eagle Scout projects, all have a component that is spiritual and catechetical. And so the gold standard of ministry with young people, certainly scouting is an important piece, and it touches about pastoral care, evangelization, catechetics, service and justice, really highlights some of the best that young people can be and the church's presence.
I have to admit that one of my sons, well, actually his final award, as a matter of fact, as a Cub Scout, was his Catholic Scouting Award, which if I had the capacity to remember Latin words, I would suggest, but Rusty,
Parvili Dei.
That's what he got.
Right, it's Children of God.
You're right.
And what Greg basically alluded to was that Scouting is pretty much a religious organization. It's hard to believe that, but Lord Baden-Powell, who started Scouting, basically used the Bible for the development of the Scout Oath and Law. Because if you look at the Scout Oath, it's on my honor, I will do my best, I will do my duty to God for the Boy Scout side. And similarly on the Girl Scout side, they use the word serve God. So it's really an intrinsic part of the scouting movement. It's just sometimes everybody thinks about scouting, we go camping, cooking, we do a lot of merit badges. But really, down to its nitty gritty, is scouting is really Catholic scouting is in particular a real driver of the scouting movement.
Actually being here where we are right now in this field church at Roosevelt campsite in Elmer, right? What's it called again? Camp Roosevelt in Elmer. Sorry, Camp Roosevelt, that I butchered your name. But as we're sitting here in this field church, there are 2 banners on the wall right now going "My duty to God," and there is a scout is reverent, and that's something that I know my son is able to recite at any time. And it actually means a lot to me as a father that this is an organization that embraces the spiritual nature of us as human beings, and making sure that regardless of whatever kind of or which God you might worship, and there are many Catholic Scouting is one thing, but there are many religious awards for all the faiths. But that scouting really encompasses that in its very soul.
Right. I mean, I don't want to speak for everyone here, but I mean, one of the keys is that what we try to do is make sure all the packs and troops understand how important it is. And that's one of the tough parts of our mission, to try to get that message out. To get the message out that doing your duty to God is basically being a true scout. So that has been difficult to get the message out to all the units, the packs and troops in the diocese, and that's one of our challenges. And so we hope that maybe this podcast, other similar vehicles, the paper, the Star Herald, if folks look at that, they understand that, one of the best kept secrets of youth ministry is the scouting program. And sometimes that's overlooked. That when you think of youth ministry, you don't think of scouting, but scouting is youth ministry. And as Greg alluded to, all the awards are really based on a really important knowledge of our Catholic faith.
The scouting in general. Let's talk about scouting in general. And Jenny, we can talk to you about this a little bit. What kind of drew you to, and your family, because Sam, with Sam right there, to scouting?
Well, as a kid, I was really involved in my faith. I altar served as a child up until middle of high school, I think. But when I was a kid, I didn't do Girl Scouts or anything like that, mainly for the sake of the fact we didn't have one around us at all, a Girl Scout troop. But my brother became a scout a few years back, and when they started involving girls in Boy Scouts, they needed a female leader to come with them to camp, and I was more than excited to go. I loved it, and it was fun being there with the boys. It was like them having a big sister more than like an adult there, and they felt more easy to like talk to me about stuff, so I enjoyed that. Like they'd come to me with their problems and such.
Boy Scouts go through difficulties and psychology.
I know,
That's
shocker.
so strange.
Yeah.
I can't believe that. The teenage boys have these issues. Who knew?
Yeah, gee.
No, I was lucky enough to camp with Rusty and Jenny and Sam. Actually, just a few about a month ago. Actually, a month ago this week, as a matter of fact. And none of us died. It was great. Although Jenny did have a moment of concern with my own son one night, who we found out apparently sleepwalks.
Apparently,
we had no idea. But
him and his little tent mate, both of them.
That's right. But actually, you were great that night. And you really did take care of them, and it was actually very enjoyable, not just to see you there. Really, it's funny. It's nice for me. It was actually nice to see a female voice there, because you're right. People listen to different people, and sometimes the boys can know how to tune out a male voice after a while, but then a female voice, they're like, okay, this is okay. I'm going to listen now. It's kind of like listening to mom.
Yeah.
But it was also really good for seeing the female scouts having someone there that they could sort of gravitate towards as well and sort of feel a sense of safety of being there. So girls in Scouts has only been open for the last year or two, not even. So have you noticed?
Sort of, because Venture Scouting and Sea Scouts have had women involved, or Girl Scout girls involved in the scouting movement for decades.
Okay,
it's only the other additional programming efforts that have integrated girls within the recent memory.
Within the recent years. It first started with the Cub Scouts, and then it moved to the Boy Scouts. So it's been an interesting transition. So the idea was to try to get families that had boys in Cub Scouting and their sisters that may want to join Scouting.
Yeah.
Like I lived that. I was a Cub Master many moons ago, and basically the boys in my pack had sisters, and they would come to our activities. So that's a key part. Cub Scouting is family scouting. So the idea is we're trying to include everyone in our scouting family.
And Jenny, from your perspective, has it been a smooth transition to the girls? Seem like they're enjoying being scouts?
Honestly, yeah, I think so. Like I thought, coming to camp, that being my first experience around girls and Boy Scouts at the same time, I thought it was going to be a lot different, but they actually got along really well. Like when they had free time and they were playing together and stuff, it wasn't like, there's a girl here, like why? It was more like, okay, whatever, and they just played around with each other like it was nothing different.
Yeah. Well, I've been happy about it because one of the girls in my son's class has joined his scout troop, and she's one of the girls in the class that really gets things done. So I'm glad that there's going to be that voice there to keep my son in line. That makes me very happy about that, actually. So Sam, just talking about you, scouting in general, what brought you into scouting?
So what brought me into scouting was one day I was in school, and at the end of the day they always handed out papers to us, and me and my friend Evan saw a paper for Boy Scouts, and we were like, that sounds interesting. So we both brought them home to our moms, and our moms were like, all right, yeah, you can join. So we started Cub Scouting, and I think 2 years after Cub Scouting we got into there late, And like 2 years after Cub Scouting, we got into Boy Scouting. And then we went to Camp Rodney, which I had a lot of fun too. And it was my first camp ever. I went Rodney, and it was hard for me at first. I didn't know my way around, but my friends from Scouts also helped me a lot.
So do you feel like being a scout now, you kind of feel like, you know, more of a team? You know, like you have a greater group of people around you now?
Yeah, I feel like I'm more like adventurous now that I'm getting out into nature more every year. And now that I'm going to winter camp too, it's even more fun, so that way I can be out in winter instead of staying inside in the heater.
You know, it's funny, just to bring one other thing, I was camping with you at Camp Rodney a month ago, and it was my son's first trip, and, you know, usually my wife would be the one that would go. I took care of the sports, she took care of the scouting, because she was a Girl Scout and loved it and everything like that. I was like, okay, we'll pick our sides, so I'll take care of sports. So I'd never been camping with the rest of the troop, and my son comes up to me and goes, "Hey, Dad, would you like to go with me to Camp Rodney?" To which I said, "Sure, son, I'd love to," lying to my son. And but it ended up being wonderful, and I wasn't sure how Jack was going to react to it, because we've done a little bit of camping, but not a lot. So over the course of a week, the kid has an epic bike crash, has a branch fall on his head and crack open, and gets covered by about 75 bug bites. And there were no bugs in the area. Somehow he got 75 bug bites. I haven't figured out how that happened yet. And we discovered that he sleepwalks. And at the end of the camp, he says to me, "Dad, I can go back next year, right? I had so much fun." I said, "Hey, man, if you had fun this week, then absolutely." And it was a great experience. And they were really that was the nice thing about scouting was it actually reminded me of the reasons why scouting was first developed, because young people weren't having experiences that would translate to the military. Like, they just didn't know how to do things. That was how it was originally developed. And Britain was in World War I, they realized that they had all these young soldiers and nobody knew how to do anything. Nobody knew how to tie or knot or use a knife or anything. So they came up with scouting as a way to sort of, teach you these very important things that you should know. Well, my son, being a nerd on one hand and a sports guy on the other, really, he'd never really fired a gun before, hadn't really used a knife before, hadn't made a campfire before, and now he's learning all these things that I wouldn't have necessarily taught him how to do. The other stuff I definitely would have taught him how to do, but not this. So it's been a great experience that way. But we also have a couple of new guests with us. So can we pass the mic around? Who do we have over here?
Father Paul Harte.
And what's your connection to Catholic Scouting?
Chaplain of the Scouts for the Diocese of Camden.
Thank you, Father. And one more?
Tom Beatty. I'm involved with the Catholic Committee.
I just might interrupt here that Father Paul and Tom are really key members of our team. One of the nice things about our committee, the Catholic Committee, is that the dedication of the crew. That's one of the things that we're not very big, but we're very dedicated. And Father is basically my teammate as far as I'm the chair and Father's the chaplain of the committee, and it's just worked wonders. And Tom, he takes activities. He really just took a number of the activities, the Yes Party that we do for underprivileged children. Rusty does so much with the summer camp program. It's just an amazing team. Ken McGill, who may join us later, worked with us on the 10 Commandment hike. So there's so many different activities that we have that the team just really drives. And so we're blessed to have all these guys.
Well, thank you all for joining us. Father Harte, I'm glad you're here. I think as long as I've known you, at least to me, you've been associated with scouting in the Diocese of Camden. How did you get into this? How long have you been a part of this in South Jersey?
I was a scout growing up in Christ the King Parish in Haddonfield, and then when they formed an Explore Post in 1964, I joined there and have been involved in the scouting in that sense all along. After I was ordained in 1976, my former Explorer director, Anson Wager, said, "I'm going to follow you where you're assigned, Father, because you're in our Explorer Post. We want to have you help us celebrate Mass and the sacraments at various campgrounds." So I've been doing that for, 35 years, I guess.
And how long have Joe, I don't know, anybody can answer this question. How long have you been celebrating Mass here at the Roosevelt Reservation?
Oh, boy, it's been a number of years. It's boy, oh, boy. It's been since, let's see, it must have been, I mean, I know at least the 90s. I mean, it had to be the 90s. So if not earlier than that. So it's just been, it's wonderful for the Scouts to be able to have Mass every Wednesday night. A Catholic Mass is just, it's a credit to Rusty and the team.
We're hearing such a, I don't know, Mike, you use the word bucolic. Am I using it in the right instance here? Is this bucolic here?
Yes, this is actually the reason, this area is the reason why I use the word bucolic, because this is the township that I was born in Elmer, New Jersey. I come into Elmer to, like, if I'm having a bad day, this is where I drive through. So being at Camp Roosevelt, and actually I remember being here, I was here for a week in Weblow's camp in 1981, probably. Certainly this structure wasn't here, but most of the other structures were here. And as soon as I hadn't been here in 30 years, and I came to visit when Jack was camping here, and I had the most intense flashbacks as I realized, oh my goodness, this was the Weblow's camp. I totally remember this place. This is awesome. It was great. And it really is, very little has changed, but it's still wonderful. So yes, this is bucolic for me.
I was thinking, I was like, the definition of bucolic would be this.
Yes,
so I'm happy
it's gorgeous, it's green, it's lush, it's quiet, it's a place you want to go to really, I mean, to get back to nature, honestly.
Well, I think that you helped me with my question, because that's kind of what I can appreciate this whole back to nature. As somebody who was unfortunately, I left I was a Cub Scout. I got my Arrow of Light and I left, but I've always appreciated that dedication to self-reliance, perseverance with the Pinewood Derby. I remember doing that with the wood. I mean, and it's good skills. Mike, you were talking about the, making a fire or, making knots, figuring out what kind of knot to use where. But it's just...
I thought you were about to ask what skills came from making a Pinewood Derby. I have no idea. I know a lot of dads get a lot of skills out of it. I don't know how many kids get a ton out of it, but...
I have to admit, my dad helped me a lot with that. But
of course,
I do remember,
does. Hey, man, my son came in second in his troop once, and I was elated. I think I was more excited than him. Yeah. Or his dad, I guess.
I mean, just good memories. Good memories as a Cub Scout. But
actually, I have a question though. We've been talking about Catholic Scouting in general. What activities of Catholic Scouting exist throughout the year?
Well, we do have a fairly busy schedule. I mean, we basically, and after this meeting, we'll have Mass, and then we have our annual planning meeting. So we talk about the activities that we have for the coming year. So we have a handy-dandy schedule. In the beginning of year, November, we have a training session for all those Scout leaders that would like to learn how to show the Scouts how to earn the religious award. So all those Scouts that who want to earn the award can earn it. Because as I mentioned earlier, our packs and troops don't have a lot of leadership as far as in that direction. So we want to make sure we get as many trained leaders as possible that know about the religious awards. We also have the event that Tom leads, the Youth Empowerment Shelter. Basically, this is a group of kids that were from broken homes or broke the homes that really live in a shelter and really don't have any holidays. So we bring a Christmas party to them, and we get Scouts to come and do Scout skills. So it's just a wonderful event. We go to Paul's Run, which is in Philadelphia. But what that is, the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament, who were at the Catherine Drexel Shrine when that was sold, they moved to Paul's Run. So we go back and we visit with them and do a number of activities. The Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament were busy. They were involved heavily with the Negro population as well as the Indian culture. So we will do activities based on that with them. We have a Cub Religious Fun Day, which Tom helped develop, which basically helps the Cub Scouts earn the religious award of their faith. If their families aren't quite sure how to do it, we come and help them earn that award. We also have the 10 Commandment Hike, which basically we go to different towns in South Jersey and visit 10 different houses of worship. And they talk about their facility, talk about one of the commandments, about what's unique with their church. We went to one in Tomstown in Swedesboro that had a tunnel with the runaway slaves. So it was very interesting that the minister just opened up the door, pulled the rug away, and down there is where the slaves were able to escape. We do a number of service projects. One of the big ones we do at Joseph's house in Camden with Father Mike McHugh. I mean, it's just a tremendous venture that we have. And we've done some service opportunities in Camden with our PAC and Troop 24, which basically the Catholic Committee started. We were blessed that Dr. Mary Burke, the principal, was willing to help us. So actually the boys are camping at Roosevelt this week. So, and next week they're going to be at summer camp, the Cub Scouts at Pine Hill. So we're so blessed to have so many different opportunities, and it's the Spirit guiding us, just telling us what we should be doing next. So, and then we have our religious award ceremony that you alluded to earlier.
Joe, this is Greg. One of the things that I'm proud to serve along the Camp Scouters, Catholic Scouting is at the front lines of ecumenical work. So our pack and troop at Holy Eucharist Parish is half Catholic and half Jewish. And that the kinds of conversations that happen among our Jewish brothers and sisters in Catholic. So I'm proud that the Catholic Church is at the table and praying with our Jewish brothers and sisters in doing learning about God, but learning of the dimensions as people of the book, people of the Bible. And so as someone who serves Catholic youth ministry in that way, these are some of the highlights of what the Catholic Church is doing in the scouting movement all around the diocese. And there's not a parish in our diocese that doesn't have a product of an Eagle Scout project. If you go around, and that's one of the highlights of being a scouting project, is that it's long standing. It's going to be not taken down easily, and so some of the shrines to Our Lady, some of the pathways of the Stations of the Cross at Mary Mother of Mercy Parish was created by an Eagle Scout. The Rosary Garden at St. Charles Borromeo was created by an Eagle Scout. The Stations of the Cross at St. Maximilian Colby Parish in Marmora was created by an Eagle Scout. What a tremendous way that young people are giving a permanent place of reverence to the church. And so I'm proud to serve and to witness the amazing projects that young people are creating for the Catholic community.
Speaking of Eagle Scouts, down at the Parish of the Holy Cross, Kyle Cole has been an altar server and is also doing an Eagle project at the Parish of the Holy Cross, which is building a Gaga pit for the boys to play in. And they're going to have a good time building that Gaga pit.
That's well, Joe, you were talking about Pine Hill, which I remember Pine Hill as a summer camp for me as a Cub Scout, and those good times. But getting back to the Back to Nature, this is such a really, I feel, you kind of, I don't know, at least for me, I would probably put away my cell phone, disconnect from things. Tom, is that something that do you feel when you come here? Is it like a little retreat? You can kind of get away from, how long have you been a Scout?
I wasn't a Scout as a youth. I started with my son when he wanted to join Scouts, so he joined Cub Scouts, and I worked with him through Scouts to Eagle, and then stayed involved and worked with my second son until he made Eagle. So I've been involved with Scouting for 20 years now, and have really enjoyed the religious emblem program, have really enjoyed working with the youth on their faith. And it gets you to work. I love being in the outdoors. It's always been, my passion, and I really do enjoy the outdoors. So I've shared that with the boys. So you get and you can take them out. You can show them how to start a fire, how to cook outdoors, how to do all those things. But then getting to know the Scouts on a religious basis, learn more about their faith together. it's a new dimension, and it's really fun to do. It's been really rewarding for me. Again, I wasn't involved in the program as a youth, so it's been a really great experience, and you get to see them on different terms, to have that realization when they start to realize that, hey, they do know more about their faith than they thought, and they're able to share it and experience this doing activities that they enjoy. As Scouts, they like doing these activities, and it's really it's really fun to watch them on that level.
And I think that's it's a nice synthesis of faith, and I mean, we're all connected here with the faith. And is there? And I'm just trying to think. What is a Scout is Joe or anybody, Rusty or anybody can. The Scout is Reverend or Sam or what is the Scout oath? Reverend, clean, or
Well,
A Scout is...
Okay. A Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent.
I think I knew like two of them. I remember two of them.
Exactly.
And is this something with Sam and Jenny? Do you have your summers? Have you been here every week coming to this? And do you camp frequently here or elsewhere?
Well, with Sam's troop, I mean, this is the first year I've really been involved with it because they just started accepting girls and needed someone to come to camp with them. That's why I first got involved. But they do Rodney camp every year. How many years have you done Rodney, Sam? 4. He's gone for 4 years. And I know his first year was a little tough because it was so far from home. But it was also good that it was so far from home because he couldn't be like, Mom, come pick me up. Because when he came, was it your first winter here? He called me in like a panic wanting to be picked up. Yeah. He didn't like it. It was too far from home, whatever. And I ended up coming to pick him up that night. But he got a lot better, especially going with Rodney all the way in Maryland, because that's like almost a 2-hour drive from us.
Yeah, I saw him. He looked like he owned the joint when we were down there.
I think that had a little bit to do with me being there. He didn't so much have to call because nobody was there. Because his last year, he called like every night. Say goodnight, tell us about his day. But I think it helped to call every night. I think with me there, it wasn't so much that nobody's there. It's she's right over there. Like, he didn't have to. I don't think he even called home very much while we were there this last week. Yeah.
That begs a question to any of us Scout leaders. Do you find that parents have been more or less involved as you've been in Scouting?
At the Holy Cross Parish, most of my parents are very much involved. They help us out on different trips, but like throughout Scouting, I do see a lot of parents not coming. Like our PAC 24. That's why we are involved at the St. Anthony's Parish School, because the Catholic Committee is the Scout leaders and helping out the youth get involved.
I was fortunate. I was able to pretty much completely avoid Cub Scouts always, and just have my wife there the whole time. And she loved it, and I was more than happy to not be a part because, as Rusty knows, being an introvert, I don't want to be around other people. However, being at Camp Rodney a month ago with all the Scouts for a week, it was actually wonderful. I got to tell you, it didn't change my opinion because I've always had a very positive opinion about Scouting, but it actually reinforced my opinion that my son is really getting a great opportunity here because he's in Scouting. Going back to the Catholic element for a second, Rusty. So we're sitting in the chapel right now, and now I've been here the last 4 weeks, and I've seen you. You are like a whirling dervish once this thing gets kicked off, and making sure everything is just set up and done right. So can you explain a little bit about how this Mass goes? Because I'll tell you the thing that amazes me the most about it is it's always packed. So many Scouts come. I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, well, they come in right after dinner, and the camp staff sort of hordes them over to the chapel. And also at the other side of camp, we have a Jewish service and also a non-denominational service. But we do have about 50 or 60 people that come to Mass every Wednesday. And we sort of draw them in. I get the Scouts to do the readings, and we recruit the priests. Father Kelly did the second week. Father Josh Nevitt did the third week, which was postponed due to a lightning storm. And then Father Adam, who is the director of vocations, did the first week. And then next week is Father Jason Rocks, who is also an Eagle Scout. He will be doing next week's Mass. and we just sort of, I don't know if the water ice helps having them come to Mass.
Listen, this is a Catholic event. We know there's got to be food with it, so I think that's perfectly on point with that. But it is, it's a simple chapel. It's for the listeners at home. It's open on all sides. It's got a metal roof, but at the same time, it's also really, really inviting. It's a beautiful view of the lake through the trees on one side and a campsite behind us and the chow hall on the other direction, and there's all of one solid wall, which is pretty sure why you can't have this open during a rainstorm. But it was really a blast to see everybody being here and being so reverent. Now, one of the problems of Rusty and his nature is he tends to walk away from the table when you're in the middle of something. You're about to ask him a question. What the question I was going to ask you was about the priests. Like, how are you able to get the priests here? Like, are these priests that you've known for a while that have a particular appreciation for scouting?
I think so, but Father Kelly and Father Josh were both at Holy Cross Parish, and then Father Harte is our diocesan scout chaplain, and Father Adam was a seminarian at Holy Cross. And then we also had Father Tom Barcelona that did a couple masses 5 years ago, or we used a bunch of different priests. And Father Kelly will only come out if I'm helping him out to set everything else up. And it was there.
I thought it was actually kind of nice because Father Adam Chehesky was your first priest, and he's also the director of vocations. And there were a ton of guys coming up to him later, and I think he was looking at that as a target-rich environment for future priests. So that was nice. Do you know, like, have we gotten a lot of priests that have come through the Catholic Scouting program?
Father Chris Markellis, who was in the Delaware Order of a Priesthood, and he is also an Eagle Scout. He was a diocesan priest first, and but I think a few priests did become scouters. Scouters were a couple of priests.
Not an Eagle Scout, but I did come through the program. To the question about the religious dimension, my parish in Atlantic County does not sponsor a troop, but the Methodist Church in town does. We had a wonderful Scout Sunday observance where the families participated at Mass, brought up the offertory gifts, and a number of the Protestant Scouts came to receive their awards that they had earned. So I'm also invited at times to offer the Sacrament of Penance at opportunities where the Scouts are having their evaluation meetings, etc. I find that satisfying. It's another opportunity to reflect them back to their own parish.
And there are three Catholic awards, right?
Well, there's four. 2 Cub Scout awards and 2 Boy Scout awards for the Catholic side.
Okay.
For the boy side. Now, for the girls, there's 3 for the younger Scouts and 2 for the older Scouts. Okay. So it covers a wide range. It goes from basically knowing about your faith, knowing about your God, and love of God, and love of family, love of neighbor, to the older awards, the older Scout awards, which basically talks about your vocation, vocation in life, what you want to do in the church. So it covers the broad range of your life as well as your involvement in the church. And one of the nice things, as we mentioned, a number of us wear different hats. And besides being the chair of the Catholic Committee, I'm the Garden State Council Religious Emblem Coordinator. And what that does, it basically, the Catholic Scouting Committee pretty much drives the religious program for the whole Garden State Council. Because a number of those that are involved on the committee for the Duty to God Committee for the whole council, Garden State Council, are Roman Catholics. Yeah. And so it's wonderful that we got such a dedicated team, and because the kids just love it. We have a ball when we do the different activities. It's basically fun learning about your God. That's pretty much our mantra.
And if I'm not mistaken, there are also a couple of adult awards as well. I believe you may have just received one, as a matter of fact, at the last ceremony, as a matter of fact.
Andy Wager Award. But the first, actually, I was the third recipient. We have the first 2 recipients here.
Oh, really?
Father Paul Harte was the first recipient, and Tom Beatty was the second recipient.
All right, congratulations all.
Yes, and earlier we were talking about Andy. So did you want to talk a little bit about Andy? I probably didn't do it justice, the impact he's had in our movement. Father
Andy had just come out of the Marine Corps, and he lived in Barrington with his wife, had a large family, but he dedicated a lot of time to advancing this Explorer post. We were, for a time, the largest Explorer post in the country, based out of Haddonfield. But we drew memberships from a number of towns in Camden County. But Andy thought outside the box. He wanted to allow us to learn leadership skills, to direct activities, to be involved in the planning of activities, including a whole weekend where we went to Pine Hill and we planned our calendar for a year in advance. So he was very much a type A kind of guy. Develop it. Who's going to take the leadership? Is this possible? Start working on it. And I was only 14 at the time, and he was a significant influence for me in my own vocation choice. So as when I was named to receive his award, I was very honored because I had known him at that time for over 40 years.
I have been helping Andy Wager with the field chapel for a number of years, and I think he knew that I would continue the mass going on as I took over after Andy passed away. And we always look up every time it rains. I'm thinking, Andy, you're looking down on us, and let's have a sunshine. But he was a wonderful man.
I second that. Knowing him far too short. But so this has been here for 20 years?
20 years.
20 years. How did it come to be? There's 6 counties of New Jersey. There's different reservations. How did this come to be kind of for the Catholic Scouting Mass?
Well, every Wednesday they have a Catholic field mass, and a scout is reverent. And maybe Joe can answer this a little better.
Well, pretty much the Garden State Council has 2 camps. One is Pine Hill and one is Roosevelt Scout Reservation. So most Boy Scouts would camp here for the summer.
Got it.
So
okay.
it's by default pretty much. So,
okay.
But it's worked out wonderful because everyone knows when the Mass is. So
and where?
So and where, exactly.
And so where you all, Joe, where are you coming from? Well, where do you live?
I live in Voorhees. I'm at Holy Eucharist Parish.
Okay.
Which is in Cherry Hill. Right?
And Jenny and Sam, you were Holy Cross Bridgeton, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, and that's not too far from here, I think, right? That's
like 10 minutes from here.
10 minutes. And what about you, Tom?
I'm from Swedesboro, so it's about a 20-minute ride.
Okay, so it's close, but do you get scouts from all over the 6 counties coming to this?
We have scouts from Delmarva in Maryland, Pennsylvania, and also in Burlington, the Diocese of Trenton. They come here to the camp. We have about 100 scouters in camp this week. And 2 weeks ago, we did have 200 kids scouts in camp. But this week is one of the lighter weeks.
So how big is this camp? I'm looking at a map right here. What kind of, they have trails? I'm seeing a campfire circle. What exactly, what kind of amenities, if you will? Sam or Jenny or anyone want to answer?
Tom, do you want to talk about that? Tom knows Roosevelt fairly well.
So in camp we have there's a waterfront area with a lake right down the hill. They've got swimming activities, small boat sailing, canoeing, kayaking, and those type of activities. They've got a nice shooting sports program. They've got a lot of general scout skills, just scout craft and your basic knot tying and those kinds of things. So I think the camp itself is a couple hundred acres, but they own significantly more land around it. It's hundreds more acres that they own around the property. So plenty of room to grow here.
And actually, there's another camp right up the road, another Boy Scout camp, Camp Grice, right? Yeah. The most important question I guess I would have for about this camp in particular is, how's the food? Sam, how's the food? You've never. That's right. You haven't had it. Anybody ever had the food here? How is it?
This year is a brand new food program.
Okay.
And they're cooking for 200 plus campers and everything. And this year they are doing a buffet service where they're having less waste. And the scouts are enjoying the food. They're not eating as much, but I did see a lot of scouts have peanut butter and jelly. So.
Well, that was one of the things that I enjoyed when we were at Rodney was, I think it was because I was so starved that every meal was delicious. But the thing that amazed me about the camp in general was how much of an emphasis was put on the self-reliance of the Scouts themselves. So they were asked to be the wait. They had to wait their own tables. They had to come up with their own systems. They had to get to their camp classes on their own. And since my son for this camp was a Brown C, he was very new to it. So a couple of the Brown C dads, like myself, hung around and walked with the kids and stuff like that because we were invested and we're helicopter parents, so of course we're going to be around. But actually, that sense of self-reliance, I think there is an element of that doesn't exist in today's society anymore because so many parents are helicopter parents, and I'm actually quite enthusiastic about Scouting because it does really foster that sense of, all right, you have a problem, let's see if you can figure out the problem.
Right. No, definitely, because basically Boy Scout is basically a boy-run organization. So pretty much the leaders are supposed to stand back and let the boys run the troop. Right. That's the whole idea. Where Cub Scouting is more family scouting. The parents get involved and help their cubs. But with the Boy Scout program, it's completely different. And so that does help with self-reliance. So that's a very good point.
I just have to say, there's a show I enjoy on the History Channel called Alone. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it. They drop people out in the middle of nowhere, Vancouver Island or, say, the Patagonia, and they have to live on their own. And I'm watching it. These people are making fire. They're using bows and arrows. Like, I remember using archery and at Pine Hill, that I do not remember any of that. And I watch it and I'm like, man, I should have stayed in the Scouts because I would have known how to make fire. I would have known how to use bow and an arrow. I would have known how to, really set up a good campsite with knots. And I suspect maybe there's a good portion of those contestants that were Scouts at one time because they're so smart and skillful, and they just, you can put them anywhere and they can survive. It's wonderful. Like, I don't know there's something that I just miss about learning how to, like archery, for instance. I was at the Renaissance Fair and I thought I had it and I didn't. I thought I knew how to do it. Is there what is that kind of pleasure you all get from being a Scout, like knowing that the self-reliance?
Yeah, now that when we have fires in our yard, I know how to make them on my own now since I learned at Scouts. And helping with knots, I know how to tie stuff together, and when I need to put stuff together, I can tie it.
Yeah, I'm that's the one thing I wish I could remember from my very brief scouting. I think I ended up I was a Boy Scout Cub Scout for all the way through, and then I think I was a Boy Scout until I was a second class Scout, and then my Scout group kind of fell apart, and I just never got back into it again. But I wish I knew how to tie a tie. I mean, tie knots and things like that. That really bothers me that I don't know how to do it. So I'm hoping that through osmosis, I will learn that through Jack. Sam, what rank are you now?
I am.
As he's looking at Rusty to make sure that he is a rank.
I'm first class.
First class, okay. See, that's the one thing I haven't gotten used to yet is when I remember when I was in Scouting, man, every rank you saw everything on everybody's Scouts. Now everyone wears the shirts, and they don't seem to be all that concerned about rank shirts. I don't know who anybody is or what anybody does, but they all look sharp. I do appreciate that. It's all sharp, and everyone will be in their Class A's for Mass tonight, which is nice. Everybody will be looking good, and the whole place will be full, so I think that's great. So as we kind of wrap up here, are there any last thoughts you might have about Pete apparently has a question, but we are going to be wrapping up, so start thinking about the last thoughts you might have for the podcast.
Well, then, okay, maybe after your last thoughts, I can ask a question of all of you. I'm curious, the lessons, I guess we can go around the table, last thoughts, and is there a lesson or lessons that you've learned from Scouts that you would want to pass on?
Man, nobody's learned anything? I find that hard to believe. I've met most of you people. You have all got a lot of learns.
Well, basically what I learned is I had two boys, two young men. They're in their 30s right now. And it's just been a joy watching them develop. The way I got into Scouting was pretty much by accident. They made me a assistant cub master, and then 1 week and then the next week the cub master magically disappeared and I was cub master. But I was blessed to have that. So and one of the joys is to see the two boys that I knew from, since they were born, just grow to such spiritual young men. And they went through the religious program, and they did their Adultari Day and Pope Pius, and I was privileged to be their counselor and facilitator, and just to see them grow them spiritually. And the idea is they don't lose that. They still have that wanting to help others. They're still men and women for others that are part of scouting program. So that's the joy for me, just to see the growth, that it never leaves them. Whether it's the skills of scouting or the spiritual part of the religious program, it'll stay with them for life.
I mean, this is only my first year being involved in Scouts with my brother, but I had some friends growing up that were Scouts, and I still see it now in people my age. Like, I can almost point out who's been a Scout, just manners-wise, things they can know how to do and they put off. But, I mean, I love being involved with it. I've always been really involved in his life with the age difference. Me being a little bit older, I've gone on class trips and all kinds of stuff. But I liked being there with all of them, too. My brother said, he was all upset I was going to camp at first. I'd be there with the whole week bothering him. I don't think I bothered him much at all. I think I bothered more of the boys. The other boys, they said it was like having a big sister for the week, because I'm pretty sure all of the boys on our site didn't have an older sister there. I'm pretty sure he's the only one that deals with an older sister. So it was kind of like, how do you feel now? Now you know what Sam goes through. But I liked being there with them. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I have just a final remembrance. The Scouts just come up with these nice smiles every day. They say, thanks for being here, setting up Mass and everything. They always are there, and they have a good time.
If you come to my office, I have a picture from our troop from St. Anthony of Padua in Camden, and all of these young boys have the biggest smiles, and it constantly reminds me, okay, this is why I'm here, because scouting movement can bring such great joy, and I thank the tremendous adults that give of their time to work with some of the poorest of the poor in the city of Camden. And so that's my takeaway, is the amount of adult mentors who pour into the lives of young people, and that is so important, and want to highlight the scouting movement from that perspective.
It certainly was the case for me. I remember the special practical nature of our Explorer post. Even on long trips, you had to pack a uniform in a plastic bag. And if you're going to church, you're in uniform, you're up in the hinterlands of New York State, doesn't matter. And I now reflect, as a pastor, when I see Scouts in uniform, I consider that a sign value. There is an association with a value-driven organization that's forming character in people. And when we're in uniform, we stand out, hopefully on a good way.
So yeah, I've been blessed to work with just hundreds of boys through our troop and through the diocesan program, and to see them develop. They come in and they're little, little boys. They grow into young men, and the small portion that go through and work on their religious emblem, regardless of the faith. You see them and they experience at a different level, and it's as much a reward for me that it is, I'm sure, for them. So it's really exciting to be involved, and I encourage anyone to go out there and find a way to serve.
And Sam, you eschewed the mic earlier, but I mean, would you recommend this to other young people your age?
Yeah, I would, because you can learn about it, a lot of things. Most of the boys my age, they're always inside on the Xbox or PS4 playing video games and everything. And I'm like, well, I'm going to camp this week. I can't go. And they're like, why are you going to camp? I go, well, I learn a lot of things there. I mean, I learn how to be in nature. I learn how to survive in nature. And they don't realize how much they can learn from it.
Before we wrap up here, is if anybody wants to learn more about Scouting, Scouting A and Catholic Scouting 2, where can they go? Where can they learn? Who can they talk to?
Well, we do have a website, snjcatholicscouting.org, if anyone wants to join there. Or they can get in touch with me should I give my phone number or whatever?
Sure, go ahead.
Joe Brennan, 856-220-8404. Please don't hesitate to call, and we'll lead you in the right direction.
Okay. And Greg, if people were interested in their parishes, would they be able to ask their pastor, or should they contact you from any perspective if they wanted to?
Absolutely, both and. There are 13 Catholic chartered troops in and around South Jersey. But there is a listing of that on the diocesan website and the Catholic Scouting Committee.
We'll make sure we put all those up on the podcast notes. No problem. The show notes, as we were referring to a few days ago. Anything else from you, Pete, before we close down the podcast?
No, I'm just. This is making me regret not staying in Scouts.
That's what this podcast is for.
It's shaming me. It's shaming me. No, I'm always in awe of people of Scouts who. Like Sam was just saying, being able to make a fire. The power went out with my family a few days ago. And I was just thinking to myself, man, if I could make a fire, to keep them warm. It was already hot outside. So maybe
I was going to say, you don't have to keep them warm, but I hear what you're saying.
If it happened in the dead of winter. But that's stuff
But more importantly, to make a shelter or something like that. Right, there you go.
So, just the idea of self-reliance and being in nature. As I get older, I'm craving more of this. So... I might
listen, you saw what happened to Joe, man. He wasn't this guy. He got shanghaied into it, and now look at him now. He's running the joint. So.
Yeah, well, I might.
You would probably look good in a Scoutmaster uniform too.
Thank you, Mike.
Sure.
Then who knows? Maybe one day.
I think Greg needs to dragoon you.
We can make that happen.
We have an opening for you.
I like it. Here's your newest recruit, Joe. There you go. Proud of it. All right, everybody. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you, listeners, for listening in, and in particular, Joe and Rusty and Greg and Father and Tom and everyone who's been a part of Catholic Scouting, and for the two Scouts, Jenny and Sam, or Scout Leader and Scout Sam. We really appreciate you being here today and telling us more about it. But more importantly, thank you very much for keeping up the traditions that I really think a lot of Scouts find very meaningful. So continue on, and we'll be sticking around for Mass later. But thank you, everybody, and listeners, have a good week.